What's the common denominator between this piece of art or this one? Or how about this one? They're all iconic album covers. Okay, maybe not that last one, but either way, I have a question for you. Can we use AI to create a masterpiece like these with our own flair? Well, that's exactly what we're going to attempt to do in this video. I'll walk you through an easy to follow 3-step process so you can try it out for yourself as well. We're going to start off with how to get crystal clear on a vision for your artwork, then moving on to understanding how to prompt like a pro, and then finally what tools to use and how to use them. Hey yo, it's Alex from Animating Music. I'm a musician, producer, and certified audio engineer here to help you level up your skills, finish music you love, and become a one-of-a-kind artist. In service to that, we go deep on creativity, spirituality, philosophy, along with practical videos like this one. Access resources, workshops, and course materials, plus a super fun interactive weekly live call, all in service to helping you flourish as an artist. Then I invite you to join the MetaMind Music community. You can find it in the link below. Stoked to see you in there. All right, so number one, what's the vision? So to start, the most important factor to be successful with this is to be crystal clear on what you want before you start playing around with these tools. Yes, there's always room for emergence and discovery in the process, of course, but with no vision, you will most likely end up going in circles. So to help you establish a vision, let me share one of mine. So the album I'm working on is called Straight Outta Serious, which is a wordplay on Straight Outta Compton. And if you're interested in checking out the first single, you can check it out with the link in the description below. All right, so here's my rough idea for what I want to see as the album cover for this album that I'm working on, okay? So basically, I just want to have a starry landscape that emphasizes the sense of depth, right? That there's something super far away and then maybe something that's closer. And I really want it to feel like some sort of otherworldly emerging star system, right? To match the title of the album and just kind of like some sort of presence, some sort of energy coming straight out of the Sirius star system or some other star system. Let me show you some of them. Okay, so I like the vibe of these album covers. All right, so the first one is Flying Lotus's Cosmogramma. If you've never heard Flying Lotus before, I urge you to listen to this album. It is incredible, otherworldly, beautiful, crazy. But what I like about this is the kind of texture of the artwork. So it's pretty simple. It has the kind of emerging star quality that I'm looking for. There's like this big thing in the middle that's kind of like shooting out at you. And I kind of like the drawing, the minimal style, and just like the texture, right? Like that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's one of my references. Another one I have is Carnival Sound Awake. Again, it's a very similar concept, very simple. Again, there's like a specific thing that you're focused on in the middle. In this case, it looks like an eyeball, but also a planet, right? And I just like the kind of abstract nature of this one. And it also has cool, like hazy textures, etc., right? Like this is a cool vision that I like. Also, this album is really, 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 really good if you've never heard it before. Okay, but this kind of theme, I'm digging this. And then finally, this is the album cover from Rise of the Obsidian Interstellar by Disasterpiece. Again, if you've never heard of Disasterpiece or this album, just give it a spin. It's like chiptune meets prog rock. Super awesome, like amazing compositions. Huge fan of Disasterpiece. But this album cover, what I like about it is the kind of video gamey, like chiptune 8-bit style. But again, there's like a star in the background and it really emphasizes the sense of depth, right? There's this little dude sitting on a mountain in the foreground. And then there's like this like ominous kind of presence way in the back with a star, right? So I like this. I like the purples. I like the kind of textures in the back there. Those are all good prompts. AI art is a controversial topic, and I'm not even 100% sure if I'll end up using what I create with AI. As I work, I'm going to consciously try to make it not resemble anything else in particular. And who knows, I might just end up using it as a draft to hire a professional. But if I do make something that I feel is good and doesn't look like a direct rip-off of the material that I'm using, I might use it. Even though we are using AI tools, at the end of the day, it will be our artistic vision and taste that will inform all of the inputs and decisions. But Who knows, AI might make something better than what I'm even thinking. So in service to that, I'm going to study the artists, movements, and history behind some of my favorite album covers and visual themes. All right, so it's worth asking yourself, what is the inspiration for this artistic vision for the artwork that you want to make, right? So I want to get strong prompts for the themes that I want in my album art. All right, so to start off, I have this visual from a touring poster, I think from The Who or something, that has a really cool style, right? I really like this almost paper mache, like hand drawn feeling. And obviously, it has the emerging star sense of depth that I'm looking for. Really cool color palette as well. So I'm going to use this as one of my sources of inspiration. Moving forward, I just have a simple image of cymatics. It's hi-fi. If you don't know what cymatics are, they're super cool. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see a video about cymatics. Moving forward, this is another one that's like these trippy alchemical sacred geometry visuals that I really like this style, right? I like the white on gray, white on black, right? So maybe we'll play around with that a little bit. Moving forward, I have this really cool watercolor, abstract, just like hazy thing. This makes you think of the Carnival album cover a little bit, but a little bit more golds and oranges, right? So I think that's a cool palette to potentially play with. Again, this is just a cymatic pattern in a more three-dimensional space that has some cool depth to it. Obviously, we got Straight Outta Compton because why not? My album's called Straight Outta Serious. This is the album cover from Spile Drive's Vision in Bloom. I kind of like the style, similar to the first image. It's like cartoony. I like the abstract star system and then the hypnotic optical illusion stuff in the back. That's cool. This one, I really like. This is another album cover that I like the style, right? It's abstract, mountainous, but it's like almost see-through, and it has a really cool effect on the visual. It's not too saturated. It's actually more chill than some of the other more saturated examples. So something to play with, just giving myself stuff to play with. Again, I found this image super cool, like esoteric representation of the sun, and it has some really cool oranges and golds and like all of this like ancient scripture stuff. I love that stuff. So I thought this had a really cool texture, something else to play with. And then I just found this like super probably AI generated star system, enlightened being staring into the distance. But again, I like the idea of the stars in the back, and then having something in the foreground. So overall, it's some spacey themes: planets, stars, asteroids, nebula clouds, solar systems, orbits, dark matter, mountains, planets. Think of all that kind of stuff. Top-down solar system, you know, whatever. Like think of like you making a solar system model in science class in like 6th grade, that vibe. And then next, if we want to get strong prompts, okay, we need to reference some artists. Not to try and steal anything from these artists, but to be able to describe and point to certain stylistic elements that we are attracted to. And for that, it can be useful to do a little bit of research to get some more language and vocabulary around the things that you already like. So let's check it out. All right, so we're doing this because, again, we want really strong prompts to reference the style of the artists that we kind of like already, okay? And I did some research. I kind of want Leigh McCloskey, which is the artist behind Cosmogramma. I like the simplicity and quasi-symbolism that he puts in his artwork and his designs. I'm also going to check out Max Loeffer, which is the artist behind that kind of Who touring poster that we saw in the references. And he also did the album cover for the Gold and Silver Sessions from one of my favorite bands called Elder. And he's done a ton of cool work for posters and album covers, right? So he has a very distinct style. And then finally, I'm going to look at Drew Wise, the guy who did the album for Disaster Pieces, Rise of the Obsidian Interstellar. He's got a little bit more of a video gamey, saturated look. But those are the artists that I'm going to do a little bit of more research behind, right? And then in service to that, we want to find out what is their style, okay? So I want to zero in on the specifics of what I like about their style. So for example, with Leigh, I like his warm colors. I love the textures. I like the abstract nature. I like the kind of collage or watercolor, that kind of thing. So those are all words that I can keep in mind and reference when we start prompting AI. Now, when I look for Drew Wise, this is more like hyper realistic. This is more high contrast, 8-bit, colorful, etc. And when I look at Max, I would say that's more like psychedelic, it's otherworldly, it's hand-drawn effect, it's cerebral, it's trippy, right? So these are all words that I can draw on to describe the styles of these artists that I like, okay? And if you're having trouble with this, you can totally use something like ChatGPT or Claude to get more information. Be like, hey, can you describe to me this artist style in more detail, right? And it'll give you a bunch of words and descriptions around that artist. MetaMind Music is for creators who want more than just technical skills. We're here to help you uncover your creative potential, master your craft, and evolve as an artist and human being. This isn't about quick tips, it's about deep transformation. We help you explore your music and your mind, break through creative blocks, and become a one-of-a-kind artist. Join our free community for free weekly live calls, access to pro-level resources, and the chance to connect with like-minded artists who share your passion. Click the link below and let's make some music that matters. And now, back to the video. All right, number 2 is we want to learn how to prompt like a pro. So in order to use AI and not get a pile of poop that looks like hyper-realistic, soulless, overstimulated fake garbage, we need to explore some of the history behind what makes good album artwork, okay? Because submerging ourselves into the context and the richness of the space will give us the firepower to really make something really cool. So let's go way back in time between 1910 and 1938 when records came in plain brown paper bags, basically a sleeve with the record's name on it. So album artwork wasn't even a thing back then. Okay, people had to already know what they wanted to then go and find it. Then 1938 comes around and Columbia Records hires Alex Steinwes as an art director. Okay, and this dude revolutionized album covers as we know them today. And by the late 1940s, other labels joined in on the fun and started rocking cool designs on their releases. And by this time, an album started to mean a 12-inch LP. This game-changing phenomenon lets artists show off their vibe, style, and creative chops in more ways than just the music. Enter the idea of visual concepts to couple with the music. A lot of the sickest album covers come straight from the psychedelic and late 70s jazz rock era, in my opinion, which means that we have to talk about some of the key album artwork artists of that time. Okay, wait a second. Is this some sort of history lesson, or are we going to actually make some artwork using AI here? I hear you. Here's the thing though. Diving into the history of a certain art form is the catalyst to find cool ideas, understand the origin of the things you already like, and get clarity on your taste. In my opinion, this is the most important part, bar none, of creating artwork using AI and just music in general, is having a very clear understanding of your own taste. If you still need a little boost to find a style or vibe that's inspiring for you or fits your song, good old ChatGPT has got your back. So let me give you a quick hack to use ChatGPT to help you gain a better understanding around what style might fit your music the best and other pivotal artists in the music album artwork vibe, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and type in here. Can you give me a list of the most influential music album cover artists throughout history with a short description of their style and the movement it was a part of? All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and hit enter, right? So we got Peter Blake for Sgt. Pepper and the Beatles. We got Roger Dean, right? Fragile, Asia, very cool stuff. We got Hypnosis, that's a sick name, Hypnosis, right? So Storm Thorgerson, Aubrey Powell, probably butchering their names, excuse me. Led Zeppelin, Dark Side of the Moon, right? Very famous album artworks. Andy Warhol, right? So all that to say is that ChatGPT will give you all of these reference points for maybe you want something that's similar to the Pixies. Maybe you like that vibe. Maybe you want something over here, Black Flag. Maybe we want Miles Davis, right? If you're going for something more jazzy, right? And if you wanted something specific, you could ask it like, hey, can you give me some influential artists for this genre, like the metal genre or techno or EDM or whatever you make, right? And it will give you more artists that you can research to just get a better idea on the landscape of what artists are significant in the style that you're looking for. All right, now that we're equipped with a little bit of vocabulary and inspiration, we're in a good position to lead the AI where we want to go. Every day we're seeing crazy new tools like DALL-E 2, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and a bunch more. They're all pretty simple. You enter a prompt and voila, you got yourself an image. Let's say that we want to make an album cover like Flying Lotus and his style. Let's go ahead and use Midjourney to do that. All right, so I'm in Midjourney here. And again, don't worry, we'll go over all the tools a little bit later in this video, but I just want to show you what happens when we enter in a simple prompt like this. So a cymatics album cover in the style of Leigh McCloskey. Let's see what it gives us. All right, so here's what we got. Nope, that's definitely not the vibe. Not the vibe we're looking for. Okay, so that's because the real magic, in case you haven't got it yet, is in the prompt. That means that we need to massively level up our prompts. Getting your vibe, ideas, and style down into sick prompts will most likely be a necessary tool in your arsenal as we approach the singularity or whatever. So prompt to image, prompt to video, prompt to music, and who knows, maybe even prompt to breakfast. So if we really want to capture the essence of an artist and re-explore their style with our creative direction, we need to describe their style, techniques, and the culture it belongs to in extreme detail. But that can be tricky. So I'm going to totally flip our little formula on its head. And instead of prompt to image, let's go for image to prompt. Let's call it the art of reverse engineering promptology. So instead of going from text to image, let's start with image to text and use AI to show us its best guess at prompts for our favorite artwork. Then we'll get to see how the AI model interprets our favorite images in its own language that we can then use and reference for our own prompts. Now, some people say that this is copying and stealing from these original artists, and I totally see where they're coming from, and there's no straightforward answer to this. But to clarify, what I believe I'm doing is not copying, but rather drawing inspiration from the masters. If we think about it, all art throughout history has always been built upon what came before it. We get influenced, reinterpret, and innovate with our own style and taste. And that's the important part, with your own style and taste, to massively speed up the process without having to spend years mastering the craft. Now, is this right or wrong? I don't know. You let me know in the comments down below. But either way, the key is that no matter what gets generated, the artistic vision and meaning will always be uniquely human. I see it as a collaboration between human technology and human creativity rather than a replacement. After all, it's your artistic taste that guides the AI, but I'd love to know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. Finally, number 3, making it happen. So once you've got clarity on what you're after, I found it most useful to get into flow. So put on some tunes, grab a coffee, and go on a generation binge. It's exactly like making music as a human being. You want to jam out as many ideas as possible while in the zone, then curate, combine, and experiment with your best ideas. So a cool analogy for this is a professional wedding photographer. So if you have any friends that are professional wedding photographers, or if you've spoken to one before, you'll know that they say that most of the work is in the curation and selection of the photos, right? So when they go to the wedding, they don't just take 10 photos, they take hundreds, if not thousands of photos. They're just shooting like crazy. And then from there, the bulk of the work is taking the best 10, 20% and editing and refining those. So again, it's a process of curation, which is very important in any creative endeavor. So let me talk about the tools that I'll be using to make this happen. So number 1 is I'll be using Midjourney. Number 2 is Kyber. And number 3 is Pixelmator Pro. So Midjourney is a subscription. Kyber is a pay by use, right? So you get credits. And then Pixelmator Pro is just some like very simple dumbed down version of Photoshop for Mac. All right, so I'm in Midjourney here, and I'm going to show you a few epic tools to help you get started. Again, you could go to Midjourney's website, and they actually have a huge amount of documentation on how to use the platform, which is way more in depth than I'm going to go. So if you want to check that out, it's here. And then for their plans, they have basic, standard, pro, mega, right? So you can get started for as little as $10 for the month, right? Or you can go annual if you want. But what I would recommend is, hey, just give it a shot for a month, $10. and go on a generation binge, see if you get anything that you like. And if you enjoy using it and you get something good, then maybe consider going on. If it's not for you, it's all good, right? So I've been enjoying it. And yeah, let's go in here and use the describe function. Okay, so as we've seen, yeah, you can enter in a prompt, and hey, if you want to, you can reference a lot of the language that you may have gotten from ChatGPT and your research, etc. And you can go on your best guess to prompt this thing. But what I would suggest to do is to go into your inspiration folder and use the images that you have found as the way to create a prompt. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. All right, so to upload an image into Midjourney, all you got to do is click and drag, and then it will upload into the prompt. But before you go ahead and prompt it and get it started, I would suggest you click this image to bring up a different view. But here's where the power, I feel, of Midjourney really comes in, is let's say we go with this first image, we can hit the I button, and it will give us its description of what it thinks this image is in a prompt. So we have 80s Japanese style poster of Mount Fuji, a vintage style poster of Mount Fuji, illustrated poster of Mount Fuji with red and white geometric patterns, etc., etc., etc. Known artists, 2D, 70s style, a white glowing sun in sky behind, etc., etc., etc. So we have all of these prompts that come up. Now, you could go ahead and use any of these if you wanted to, just by clicking the words, and then it enters it in the prompt. Okay, so what I would do is shop around, be like, well, what if this actually describes what you would like, right? So to me, that's not actually what I want, but let's say a vintage style poster of, and let's go with a white glowing sun in sky behind, star system in space with geometric shapes and patterns. So there's my first prompt, right? And then I'm just going to look around for, I don't know these artists, I could look more into them. But for now, maybe we go with the 70s style, a white glowing sun behind, maybe not, right? Just epic composition, featuring red and white geometric shapes with an emphasis on starry night sky above. Design incorporates dark maroon. Yeah, let's go with that, right? See what happens. So what I would say, geometric shapes and patterns, we already got that. Psychedelic, spaceship in foreground, starry sky, retro Japanese. That's cool, right? Trippy, I like that. Cool. So like some key words. Now, I can, before hitting go, I can go back and we can actually look at a different image. So maybe we go with something that's more the style, like the visual style. So maybe we'll open up this one, right? And let it load its interpretation of this image, right? A painting of abstract depiction of the elderly god in space. That sounds pretty intense. I like that, but I'm going to take a painting of an abstract depiction. That might be too much of a prompt. We'll save that for later, actually, right? Let's see here. Ethereal colors to create a sense of mystery and wonder. I like the first part of this prompt, right? Bathe in ethereal colors that create a sense of mystery and wonder, but I'm going to take off the focuses on the face. So I hope you could see the flow. It's like, okay, we're going to load this up with prompts, creating an abstract painting with light rays emanating from its center, a scene surrounded by swirling galaxies and celestial bodies. That sounds about right, right? So I could go on and on and on and really load up this prompt, but at a certain point, you're just going to have to hit go. So maybe I'll open one more, try to get the sacred geometry vibe in there, see what Midjourney gives us here. Abstract geometric shapes with arrows and moon symbols on a black background. Cool. White sacred geometric vector symbols on a black background. Cool. Let's throw that in. Alchemy. Let's go with moon and sun signs, mystical, simple shapes using white lines. That's a good prompt. Now, before we hit go, once it's generated, I'm going to use the same prompt, but I'm going to give it some more direction by referencing images, not only in text, but referencing images for a style. So here's what we got. We already got some pretty cool stuff. I don't know if this is the vibe that I'm going for, but it's a good start. That's pretty cool. That one's really cool. I really like this one. So if you like it, hit a favorite. Again, not married to anything. This is cool. This is very abstract. But what I want to do is I'm going to use the text that we just used, same text. And I could go back in here and tell Midjourney that I want you to reference a specific image for the style. So maybe we really like this style, or maybe we take a different one. Maybe we go with the cymatics image, see what it gives us. So I can click on this image and notice that it populates here. right? So what this is doing is that alongside this text prompt, we're giving it an image prompt as well. I'm going to hit go with this image prompt. Then I'm going to paste it. And again, I'm just going to go, we're going to go ahead and hit, yeah, let's do this one, that one. Let's prompt it, right? And again, just going, use up some credits. Let's say we want to use this one. Sure. Let's throw it in, right? Boom. And let's do one more, see what we get. Maybe we do this one, right? So now I'm just getting the ball rolling, generating some stuff, see what happens. And you're going to notice things that stick out to you, right? Like to me, this one was cool. It's kind of abstract. It's not really what I was looking for, but it's cool, right? This one's maybe getting closer. Let's zoom into some of these. Cool, 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 not sure. This one's kind of cool. So once you find one that you like, again, you could favorite it. But here's where the flow state of Midjourney comes in is, let's say we go to the first one we liked. Let's say we're like, I like this, but I want a variation. So you could vary it subtly if it's very close to what you want, or strong, and you could upscale it, all this other stuff, rerun, etc. So, or you could use it as an image. So for example, I'm going to ask it to do a variation strong. So just by doing that, it's generating 4 variations from this. And I can also use the style of this image as the prompt for the next one, right? So now I could use the same text we've been using with the style prompt of a generation we made, and we can prompt that, right? And then as you go through these, you can keep the ball rolling. This is how I do it. So it's like, this one's kind of cool. I don't know if I really want to move forward. Cool, cool. Okay, let's keep going. Decent, decent, decent. Nothing sticking out. This one's very cool. I really like this one. So I'm going to go very strong, and I'm also going to use it as the prompt for the next one. So we're getting meta, right? And the key here is that I want to get away from the references so that we create our own references, right? So that we're not really directly copying anything. So let's find this one again and hope you can get the flow, right? It's like, that one's cool. Let's see what we got. I'm going to keep going the right way. I like that. It's not really what I was looking for, but ooh, this one's different. This one's getting close. I like this. More variations, strong. I like the sense of depth of this one, right? So strong variation. That one's cool. This one's cool. I'm going to favorite that. So you can start to see the flow, right? And you're going to be generating new ones as you're reviewing the ones you like. So here's the variations that we got of that first one. These are pretty cool. These ones are generating. So you can see the flow, right? But for me, like, this is getting closer to what I was looking for. Like these ones, right? Because there's a sense of depth there. I kind of like this one. It's colorful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This one's abstract. So maybe we go with image, and then we can enter in a prompt that you could type in, or again, let's start looking at some of our references, right? So maybe I want more of this texture, right? So I'm going to look at this image. So beautiful watercolor painting, ancient symbols around it. I like this. I like that, right? And just experiment. Paper texture, golden browns and colors, vintage style, watercolor, ancient sun in the center, and an aura surrounding it. Let's see what we get with that. All right, so I'm not going to show you the entire process of going through finding something, but I want to show you the pathway that I took and what it looked like to get to what I ultimately like. So as you can see here, I started with a big prompt as we did before, and it was close. And then I created some variations on the ones that I liked. And then again, I changed the prompt here, as you can see. Beam of light emerging from star system, faraway distance, up close in detail, organic textures. I wrote that in, continued to iterate. And then I'm like, okay, let's try something else. So I tried this geometry thing that didn't really work out, kept iterating. I'm like, this is cool. We have now more purples in here, right? I probably threw in a different visual reference to get it going. I'm like, this is kind of closer. And then I started to get more of a spacey vibe here, right? Like I enjoyed this. This made me think of the first album cover. This was the first one that stuck out to me. Then I brought in that other image, and they're very similar to that. And then these ones are closer to the Cosmogramma, as you can see. This is very similar. That one stuck out to me. Continued, different reference, tried to do different prompts, just kept the flow going and going and going, right? To see different potentials. And this one had really cool depth, but I was like, I don't really care about the mountains and stuff. I want it more abstract and in space. I like the purples, went around with this, et cetera, et cetera. But you can see that there was a lot of generation that happened, right? This was the mountainous album cover. You can see that it's similar, but then I continued to prompt it so that it's not so similar, right? Like this, I would say, is pretty similar to this one, right? You can see that it's pretty much a direct influence. But as we continue, this one's less so. There's some elements that are similar, but it's not direct. And then as I continue, it becomes less and less recognizable, right? But I'm like, I don't want it to be a direct ripoff, so let's go. So now it started to get a little bit more synth wavy and bright. Kept going. Some weird hands emerged somehow until I stumbled on this one. This was the one that resonated with me the most. I'm like, this stands out. It's modern. It doesn't directly look like any of these references. So it became its own thing. And most importantly, it's aligned with what I wanted. All right, so the next tool that I'm going to use is Pixamator Pro. This is just a basic design tool. You could probably use Canva if you have Photoshop. Any of these will do the same. But I just wanted to get it in here so I could play around with maybe some effects to make it more ourselves. I could brighten it up if I wanted to. That looks pretty cool. You could play with the saturation. That looks very cool as well. Maybe play with a different color palette. You can see that brings something else out. If we reset it, that's what it was originally. More chill. This is a little bit more saturated. Maybe I want to go over here, bring out some red. This changes the vibe, sharpness, etc. Just playing around with different things that we could look at. This changes it completely, right? Going wild. This is cool. Brings out a little bit more of the starry texture, right? Reset. That's what it looks like. Bring it out. Interesting, right? So I might just use this to play around with, again, making it more of my own. Or if you wanted to go something crazy, there's a cool effect here, Mandela, that turns it into a mandala. Like just seeing where it could go and experimenting, right? And again, you could make variations of this depending on where you want to go, right? Maybe you want to do different variations for different artwork. You can reformat it in different sizes. You can do some slight tweaks if you want to have a different version of it. Very handy to have in this tool. One thing I did do is I threw it in Midjourney to get a wider visual of the same thing. So let me show you what I mean. All right, so once I played around in Pixamator Pro and maybe fine-tuned a little bit of the visual that I like of this album cover, I then went back to Midjourney and I made a wider image, right? So if you look, when you have an image selected in Midjourney, you can actually upscale in different ways. So in Midjourney, when you prompt, I could use this image, right? And then you go into these settings and maybe we want a landscape 16:9 and we want the same thing just straight up. So now we're in landscape 16:9 and then we want a rerun, right? So what I did once I played around a little bit in Pixamator with this image is I reprompted it in Midjourney to create a 16:9 version, right? So I extended this image, which gave some cool planets over here, right? Which I felt matched the vibe. And now I have a few different assets to play around with as we go into our third tool, which is Kyber, okay? So Kyber is a pay-per-use situation where you get credits, but it is super handy to make some cool visuals and banners that follow the album artwork that you've already created. And they've built in an entire workflow that facilitates this process. All right, so let me show you what Kyber looks like. And the awesome thing about Kyber, this tool that they use is called Super Studio. The awesome thing is that it has a bunch of different AI engines built into this one platform. So the way that it works is if you hit create, it brings up all of these different models. It's kind of overwhelming, but you have all the flows. You have ones for images, ones for video, one for audio, etc. What these flows are is they leverage different AI engines for the specific thing you're trying to do. So for videos, for example, you can see that it uses Luma for this way, Runway for this one, this other platform called King, all this other stuff that would be individual platforms that you would have to work with. But what Kyber does is it brings it all together underneath one umbrella so that in your workstation, you can work with all of these different tools and experiment with them without jumping around, right? Same thing with images, it has all these different flows, and I'll show you how that works in a sec. The other thing that's awesome is that they have built-in presets, right? Creative templates, like a selfie blender, character animation, storyboard animator, etc. But what we want is the album art machine. Okay, so you could load this as a preset And what it does is it gives you this nice little Figma board-esque thing where you just walk through the steps, right? All right, so the beautiful thing about this album art workshop is that once you have your artwork, it brings you through the steps and the necessary flows to use so that you can create a bunch of different variations. So in this case, I have the wider version of that artwork. And then it walked me through the process of creating an animation. So now if I click on this, you can see we have this little 8-second animation of that artwork, which I can put on Spotify, you can put on your website, wherever you want to put it. It walks you through the process of later on, you can make a animation that syncs with the audio of your song. So you upload a snippet of your song, and then it will synchronize the visual to the music, which is super cool. And the idea is that you just go through the steps that it recommends for you in this flow. And by the end, you have all the assets that you need to then publish on Spotify, throw them on socials, whatever you want to do. All right, so with all that said, I have some artwork that I feel is decently original. It aligns with my vision, and I have all these different variations. I have the wide version, I have some animations. I might play some more to get some more variations on this theme of the artwork. But the great thing here is that if I wanted to, I can go ahead and use this. So whether you decide to use this for ideation to then go and hire a professional or another artist, or if you want to go ahead and use stuff for yourself, if you feel that it's different enough and not ripping anything off, that's up to you. But I just wanted to show you the process of starting to ideate artwork with AI for whatever means that you choose to use it for, because I think it's such a powerful tool as an independent creator if you're doing everything yourself. But getting your artwork sorted is only a small part of releasing music. So if you want the same step-by-step game plan that I'll be following to release my own tunes, definitely check out this video next where I cover the entire thing in detail. So I'll see you in that video.